Hello, Facebook. I think that we are live now. Just checking, make sure I think we are live. Yeah, we are live now. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Either good afternoon or good morning, or good evening potentially, based on wherever you are. We'll give folks a few minutes to join us, but thanks for joining us today on Facebook Live with ACPA President Jamie Washington. Jamie, you want to say hello to everyone?
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, depending upon where we are in the world. It is an exciting opportunity to join you all in this way with our acting executive director, Chris Moody, and just having a little bit of time to engage and talk a little bit about where we are as an association and welcome your questions as we are experiencing these next 45, 50 minutes together.
Great. Again, folks are going to join us throughout the next time together, but we're really excited to be with you, and folks will join, I think, as we go.
Sure.
Jamie, do you want to just tell a little bit about yourself and kind of how you came to be in ACPA leadership?
Well, happy to. And again, thank you all for joining us and those who may get to see some of this later. I have been a member of ACPA since I was a graduate student back in 19. I no, actually, I started when I was a graduate student in 1983 with the association, and it was at that time that I learned that involvement in professional associations was very important. And so my commitment to my own professional development, as well as my leadership development and opportunities to continue to make a difference in the profession started back then. I've had a long history with a number of professional associations in higher education, and ACPA has been my professional leadership home. Uh, I've served in several capacities in ACPA, from standing committees through commissions and involvement in state chapters and convention committees, and came into the role of president vice president a year ago, and now get to serve as the president. I I have been away from leadership actually for a few years, and that I was involved in starting and developing my consulting business, but have never left the association, and have always been. I've been at every ACPA convention since I was a hall director in 1986, and so it is the space where I feel like we have some of the best and the brightest in the field doing amazing work. And so ACPA is not only my professional home, it's where my family is. Yeah, professional family. Yeah.
I wasn't gonna to press and tell folks how long you've been a member, but you just did it yourself, so I didn't have to. Anyone that interacts with Jamie or I on a regular basis will probably hear me call Jamie the Reverend Doctor Pastor President. We talk about the many roles that you play in life and how you found time and space to have ACPA be a part of your experience right now.
Well, so much like most of what I do today, I'm very clear that as I make meaning of all of it, it's about what I'm supposed to be doing at this time. And it feels at some level to me, if you would, in terms of vocation and calling. Um, as I said, I had stepped away from actual ACPA leadership a few years back in the early 2000s, as I actually left higher education proper, meaning I left a campus and went to divinity school and seminary. Uh, and I left then in that space, I got really clear about how I would serve higher education for the next round. I actually thought at that moment that I was letting go of this position, actually, or letting go of ACPA leadership at this level. But it just was for a time. And uh, when I got nominated for the presidency, I found that it was now that it was supposed to happen. And so as I balance working as a consultant in higher education, as I balance serving as a pastor, as I balance being a partner and a grandfather, and a patriarch in my family, alongside the presidency of ACPA and the Social Justice Training Institute, I find that all of them in many ways are overlapping and interacting with one another. And so each piece informs the other piece and helps me to be more effective, I think, in all of those spaces. So ACPA definitely is a part of my life and integrated into the way I make meaning and the way I do business each and every day.
Um, and I can attest. I mean, I feel so fortunate for the past year to have had the chance to work with you this closely, and glad that both of our nows have intersected.
Yeah.
And so it's just been a real pleasure to get to know you, and I'm hoping that we'll get some Facebook watchers here that may not know you that well yet,
Mhm.
and we'll just see the magnificence that is Jamie Washington starting
Wonderful.
today if they haven't
Yes.
gotten to know you yet. So I do want to encourage folks if you have questions that you want to pose. I do have some that Jamie and I are going to talk through as
Yeah.
we promised in our advertisements. But want to take questions as folks have them. I'm trying to keep my eye over here
Mhm.
on the messages that come in, and so thanks to those that have joined, and feel free to add in some questions into the chat box, and I'll take a look at those every so often.
Right.
And so we're really excited to do this live with leadership series, and we about a month ago had Stephen Quay and Craig Elliott. Stephen's our past president of ACPA, and Craig's our incoming president next March, current vice president, to really kick us off in this series. And so I'm excited to be with you now, Jamie, to have folks hear a little bit about your experience thus far as ACPA president. We're about almost at the 6 months mark, I guess.
Right.
September will
Exactly.
be 6 months in your year as president. So tell me and those that are watching, what's been most important to you so far in your time as president? What's had great meaning for you?
Well, I really appreciate that question, and I actually did take a few moments to think about what have been my learnings, what has been important in terms of my paying attention, and this opportunity has, kind of re-energized me in a very particular way. In that I call myself a higher ed student affairs geek, right? And so I geek out over the work that we get to do. I very much feel called to do the work and to be in the association leadership. The platform that is ACPA is an important one, and it is one that allows me not only opportunity to speak on behalf of, but listen to and hear the voices of the people. And as on behalf of not only serving our students, but serving the profession and the world. I often say, as ACPA goes, so does the profession. And in many ways, we have helped to shape and lead the direction that not only student affairs, but higher ed has gone over the last 95 years as we move into our 95th anniversary. So when I think about what's been most significant and important for me, I would say it's been the people, the opportunity to work with, again, some of the best and the brightest and the talented, the committed professionals that we get to work with each and every day, the dedicated volunteer leadership, the hours and time that people put in, and the passion with which. And so for me, it's been very important to know that we are willing to struggle together, and that as we are doing our work through a racial justice and decolonization lens and a social justice lens, that means we will have some bumps and tickles along the way that aren't always easy to navigate through. But what I've learned and appreciated most about this association, and that is, what's kept me here all of these years, is that we're willing to stay in it together, right? For the betterment, again, of the profession, our professional colleagues, and the students which we serve. So that's been one of the major pieces for me. And what's been significant is that we are at a particular moment in history, as we always are. But there are always kind of tipping points and turning points. In terms of association life and in terms of institutional life, organizational. If you've done any reading or understanding about organizations and communities, there's a developmental time frame that folks are moved through, and we are in a one of those developmental moments that's a turning moment, right? A deciding moment about who we will be for the next round, and lots of folks don't do well in those moments, right? So lots of folks, like to come in and move in on the, kind of ride the wave of we know where we're going. Let's just kind of keep going there and work, comfortably from that place. And this is not a judgment about what people prefer to do, but I do feel like I'm, along with the leadership that I'm coming behind and working with. So Donna Lee and Stephen Quay and Craig Elliott, right? Where that kind of group of us are the group of folks who are moving us to this in this space of transition, right? And redefinition. So it's exciting to be in the space where we are exploring, resetting, clarifying who we will be for the next round and how we are positioning ourselves to move into that space stronger than ever.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the willingness to be in it, to just sit and think and reflect. And you and I have had a number of conversations about who we are today is very much rooted in who we have been in our as a history of an association and the role that we've served in student affairs and higher education over the last 95 years. And so it may not yet be all figured out on where we're going. I think we have a good sense of where we've been and what matters to us as an association. In that moment of kind of changing trajectories or thinking about the future, do you want to tease any thoughts about what you're thinking about the future and as we prepare for the next round, who we will be at 100 when we celebrate our 100th anniversary in 2024? And then, as you mentioned, who will be in the next round? Can you speak more to some of that? And then we'll get to some questions that are coming in.
Yeah, so one of the things that, and I've been spending a lot of time in this conversation about the next round, right? And I think that one of the key things about professional associations, professional development, is that we stay current and future focused, right? In order to stay relevant and paying attention to what is coming. And it is easy to get caught up in, I learned that, we did that, that's done. I don't need to continue that. I don't need to refocus or reframe or revisit that. It's easy to do that. What we are in a space of doing is being willing to say that we won't just kind of rest on the good laurels or the good things that we've done in the past, but we will revisit and reframe and relook. And so with that named, as you said, who we've always been, we have always been about equity and inclusion and about serving our students, right, for the betterment of all students. That is who we've always been. From whether it's from Learning Reconsidered, the student personnel's point of view, all of those student development theory, all of those places really were about us being able to better serve our students and prepare them to be, full and good citizens and have the most rewarding experience during their college time, such that when they leave, that they can, be major contributions in the world. So as I think about where and who we will be in the next round, as we partner with our other sibling organizations within the Higher Education Secretariat, our direct sibling organization, NASPA, as we look at what we all do well and what we get to do our focus on, I see ACPA inviting us at this time to continue our focus as a generalist organization serving higher education with a commitment to developing our capacity and our lens and our fluency through a social justice and racial justice and decolonization lens. And what that actually looks like is particularly important for the contextual moment that we're in. And so you don't have to go far. You don't have to do anything but turn on the television or pick up your phone or your electronic device and check your Facebook or your Twitter feed to know that issues of inclusion and equity are paramount, right? And whether that's in the political arena, whether that's in the cultural arenas, whether that's in higher ed, in our local politics arenas, we know that we are in the next round of, so what does it mean for us to live together in community, and how we figure all of that out. And so ACPA, I think, is uniquely positioned to help develop not only the products, but the programs, the services, the practices, the opportunities for professionals to come together to develop the kind of the resources and the practices to navigate what it means to live in a society where issues of injustice, where issues of power and privilege, inequity are alive and well, and help us to just get better than we are today. And so as I look into the future of ACPA, I see us, whether we're talking about DACA, whether we're talking about Me Too, whether we're talking about Black Lives, whether we're talking about trans movement, whether we're talking about first generation folks and what their experiences are on college and university campuses. And as we talk about minoritized populations, we're also talking about how each of us from our dominant or privileged identities get to develop the skills to show up in our full humanity and doing our part to, again, help to create a better world. I'm really clear, Chris, that this conversation, that the work that we're doing is not a valueless conversation, that we operate from a value place of all people mattering. We know that sometimes that means we have to be in conversations with folks or figure out how to be in spaces with folks who don't necessarily see it the same way that we do. And that's a part of the educational experience that's about learning to be in community. It's about developing the capacity to understand your own lens and your own worldviews, how those inform your beliefs and how those inform your actions. And whether you're going to be a politician or a preacher or a lawyer or a mom or a grandparent, those skills are so necessary for our society. And ACPA gets to do its part to prepare the professionals so that they can prepare the students to live into that world.
Right. I love that so much, Jamie. The framing that you gave to that made me think about one of the values I have at ACPA is a place that where social justice is the work of college student educators, right?
That's right.
Like you can't talk about student success without talking about equity and inclusion and the different challenges and obstacles that students face as they experience a post-secondary experience. And so I just really value your leadership and thoughts around that as well. So gave me goosebumps as you were talking. So I promised we'd go to some Twitter questions. And so one of the first questions, Stephanie, thank you for your question about kind of affordability. You referenced that you've been to conferences. I won't remind people, but for a couple of decades, and maybe sometimes with support of an institution or an employer, and sometimes without. Can you talk about how maybe your experience with accessing professional developments and conventions and networks, and how you've made that, how you've experienced that across your career, and how we can help folks continue to doing that in their own present day experiences?
Sure, and that's such a good question. Again, as we talk about social justice, that one of the dynamics is access, right, and affordability, and how we again seek to provide educational opportunities and learning experiences that folks can access, whether that is convention, regional, local professional development opportunities. And we know, we don't pretend like there are not costs associated with all of these things in order to deliver upon them. And it's easy to, really only think about that in terms of graduate students and new professionals, but there are a number of folks within. We don't come in necessarily to higher education and student affairs to make a lot of money. Not that we can't make a very nice living in the profession, but we recognize that there is a level of income that, again, as we think about particularly minoritized and marginalized folks, that they're navigating having to make choices, right? So yes, I have this discretionary income and I have family and I have children and I have these other things that I need to do. And how do I balance that as I think about my own professional development opportunities? And so I have found, and we are doing more thinking about that. We, I don't, I wouldn't say that we haven't, I would say that we probably always cared, but I don't know that we've always thought as intentionally about, so what are the ways that we can create access to these experiences that may not be in person, may not be face to face. How do we provide, kind of follow-up information in the most reasonable ways that we can? We have looked at and are always considering technology and the advances in technologies and the ways that they can support our sharing and having, more people have access. And that's a cost as well, right? And so where does that, cost go back to, and how does that play out? And so I'm always encouraging folks to, pay attention to not only kind of the national opportunities, but so maybe we can't afford to go to the national conference, but there's great state and regional chapters and local opportunities. There's great professional development programs that might be more accessible cost-wise. And we, again, are, as an association, looking at, so what are the things that we can provide more of for less costs? So whether that's, again, using webinars, complimentary webinars or webinars that are included in your membership, kinds of things, Facebook Live kinds of opportunities to do professional development, the readings of the professional journals and developments and so on. So we're trying to pay attention to a multifaceted approach to consider how we continue to create access. And we know that there's no easy answer around that. So we welcome ideas, any thoughts that folks have, and anything that you've seen in other spaces, that reflect a more sensitive eye to, addressing this as a need and as a concern, and always paying attention to the balance, the quality of the experience, and access for all folks.
Great questions, and I want to underscore some of the things that Jamie said in case folks missed it. We look at the experience and being a part of the association and a member of the profession in a holistic sense, right? So there is a cost of convention, but that's also balanced with the fact that we want folks to be members throughout the full year.
Yeah.
And so looking at things like membership rates and what we can bundle inside of those, and it's much cheaper to do a membership in an organization that where folks access journals and publications electronically versus print copies. So as you see opportunities, as Jamie mentioned, for us to continue to monitor some expenses that is natural, I think, for folks to expect us to have to cover, like printing for publication, where we can do things like go virtual. We want to do that and help us by letting us know the things that would still provide the same high quality content and experience without some of the embedded cost behind it. We'd love to have those ideas. Jamie, you also mentioned another question. Hi to our good friend Angela Powell. Hi, Angela. You mentioned our partnerships with folks in the Higher Ed Secretariat, the CHIMA, the Council for Higher Education Management Associations, the other student affairs associations. Angela's questions about partnerships and relationships with vendors. And you, Jamie, I know, have sat in our in a marketplace as an exhibitor in the past, and so know the lived experience of our corporate partners. And so, wonder if you could talk a little bit about your thoughts on the importance of corporate partnerships in making the association is successful, but also in being a resource for members and attendees at our professional development events.
Sure. Well, partnerships with vendors goes without saying in terms of importance, in terms of the life of the association, and not only in terms of what how they can contribute to kind of the funding and the supporting in those ways, but also in terms of the products that they deliver and serve, and how those products serve again higher education and our students. So I think that again we have had some wonderful partnerships in terms of those who participate in our marketplace and in other kinds of ways that they sponsor and support events. Without question, that some of these folks have made the difference in lots of the things that we've been able to do or not do. And that as we think about who, kind of who should be and who can we, continue to have in those market spaces, we are always open to ideas of people and products and services that best serve. We are particularly paying attention to as we move forward at this particular time. What are those products and what are those vendors who are also not only coming to the association to deliver services, but they're coming as learners, right? And then, so how do they better deliver on their product with a social justice and racial justice and decolonized lens? And so we feel like that partnership is mutual in terms of not only them giving to us, but them also receiving from us in terms of who we are and what we get to share with them. So again, I know that both at our state and local and national and at national convention in Boston and wherever we are, we're always paying attention to those relationships and developing those relationships throughout the year. So we don't just wait till convention to get to those partnerships. And so ideas around that are also welcome. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Good. Some of the Facebook chatter with us now, Jamie, is about our wonderful state and regional chapter events coming up. So it's a good opportunity to kind of give a shout out to the Midwest folks who are planning a regional conference for this fall, as also our Colorado colleagues. But do you want to, I guess, kind of go into, let's do a preview. What's coming up for the association, and what things would you want to particularly highlight for members in the rest of the calendar year or the rest of your year as president?
Right. So I think that as you've already named, so between our professional development programs and opportunities alongside that are specifically operated and run through our international office and professional development arm, as well as the state and chapter regional conferences that are coming up, or are those other opportunities alongside our national convention that'll be coming up in Boston. And so what I'm inviting folks to do is you can find all of that information out by going to myacpa.org. And our calendar of events are listed there, the professional development calendar. We've got some great programs coming up in the fall and in early spring of next year. I don't have the calendar in front of me, so I don't want to forget something. We might just run back through. I know that we've got the former Residential Institute that is now the Curriculum Institute, and we've got the Mid-Managers Institute, and so again, as to not forget anything, please check out that space in terms of professional development opportunities. We've got a number of regional and state chapter conventions, conferences that will be coming up in the fall, and check out your region and or your state for those opportunities to participate, not only in the conference, Some of those are 1 day, some are 2 day drive-in kinds of experiences, but also to get involved. It's a wonderful way to start your involvement if you're not involved already and you're looking for ways to, again, continue to enhance your leadership development as well as contribute. You have something to say and something to give. I got involved in ACPA as a graduate student simply by doing this. I just I just did this. They asked for someone to review programs, and I just did this, right? And so I just invite people, as I do with first-year students all the time, I invite them to practice doing this. Just raise your hand and say, I'll do it, right? And then you'll find the support around you to help you figure out that which you don't know. And you'll find that there's an enormous amount of learning as well as community that happens through getting involved in those ways. So those are some of the programs. As we look to our 95th anniversary and convention in Boston, we say, yay, we're going to be in a place of celebration, not only for the work that we have gotten to do over this last 95 years and those moments of transition and change, because we've had several over this last 95 years. And we are preparing, as we move into this 95th anniversary, the launch for 100, the launch to who we will be in 2024 and moving into the next centennial for us. So you don't want to miss that convention and that the celebration and the opportunity for redefining and setting the course for the next round. We are excited about a lot of the work around the strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization. And so you can be looking forward to some more resources that are coming out. There are a number of ways we're looking at, helping to provide actual tools. We're re-upping a strategic curriculum group that's going to provide you with some resources. We're looking at developing some writing and under the leadership of Stephen Quay with the group to put out a paper around how, in fact, we live into the strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization. We are looking at a presidential symposium that's going to give us an opportunity to consider, given that next year is the 70th anniversary of the student personnel point of view, and it is our intention to look at how we engage at this point the student personnel point of view with a racial justice and decolonization lens. So we are excited about that, and there's more to come around that, and we're looking to partner with some folks, and we'll give you more about that in some upcoming leadership updates. So
Perfect. That's great. That's so many. I just get excited listening to you talk about all the things that we have planning, and I have a little more insight to a lot of the things that are going on.
Sure.
And so I think I'm just when we're ready to share those more broadly, I think the membership and even the profession's just going to be really excited about all the things that we're working on.
Chris, one of the things I didn't say,
yeah.
I did want to jump in around that another piece that I think is particularly important, and I know that many of the folks who might be listening in will also resonate with the importance of an intergenerational and cross-generational conversation. And we know that whether we're talking about social justice, diversity, and inclusion, whether we're talking about how we engage in student learning on our campuses and get students best engaged, we know that we are working on many campuses with 3 generations easily of folks in our offices and departments. And some of those conversations bump into each other because of those generational differences and understandings. And so we are excited to work with some of our senior scholars to really invite us to think about how do we do that most effectively in student affairs and higher education work. We know that the generational conversation is not one that's new. It's one that's happening in workplaces and businesses across the country. There's lots of good data out there around that, and we want to demonstrate our capacity and our knowing around what we know about student learning, what we know about adults in transition, what we know about engaging in organizations, in culture change with a generational lens. And so you look forward to information around that initiative and effort as well.
Good, great. I'm glad you added that. That's really, really helpful and I think important. I think having just left the campus in December to step into the ACPA office, I can tell you that intergenerational dynamic is alive and well, and showing itself in really beautiful and challenging ways. And so
Yes.
I'm excited for us to do some hard work. It's going to be hard, I think, but to do some really important work
Well,
around that.
connected to that in particular is, as we talk about the strategic imperative around racial justice and decolonization, is that many of our senior leaders have been in the work, and they have been some of the folks who have been the biggest champions for diversity and inclusion on campus. If you look at the research from ACE, when they talk about who do presidents go to around diversity, inclusion, and racial justice issues, you will find that even on many campuses where we have uh, uh, had the wisdom to, get senior diversity officers and vice chancellors for diversity and inclusion, the VPSA is still one of the primary focuses, foci for that leadership. And that's the other initiative that we are looking at as we move into this next year is a VPSA Institute on Racial Justice and Decolonization. And so we are looking at creating space for senior leaders to do their work so that they can be prepared to lead in this next round. So we've got so much exciting stuff that's happening. Every time I say something, then I think of something else that we're working
Hmm.
on. But it's just really good. And it's all interconnected. It is all
Hmm.
interconnected.
I have one more question. And thanks, Margaret, for adding it. Certainly, I know enough about your history and my own to know that the entity groups, our commissions, our standing committees,
Mhm,
coalitions,
mhm.
networks, communities of practice, state, regional, international chapters are the heartbeat really of the
Yes,
association.
yes.
That's where many of us get our leadership experience and start to serve on the governing board or convention leadership levels. Can you give some thoughts about visions about how we can tap into our entity leaders over the next year to really be a part of some of our positive momentum?
Well, so one of the things that we left our July leadership or June leadership meeting with this summer was the importance of our recognizing just what you named, Chris, in terms of the heartbeat, whether it's state, national, international divisions and regional chapters, or again, commissions or standing committees, communities of practice. Not only is it the heartbeat, it's where some amazing work is happening and product is
Yep.
happening, right? And so whether those are webinars or conferences or articles or podcasts or just so many things that's happening that really it's not only helping our professionals, but definitely helping, our students in terms of our work in higher ed and student affairs. And so what we have paid most attention to or are paying more attention to is the importance of telling our story, right? And helping those entities not only share and creating spaces such as this and more for you to know what's happening within those spaces and for you again as members to tap into that, right? And so is your whether it is commission or state division that you can tap into leadership, connection, involvement, and contributions in all of those spaces. And the beauty is this notion of intersectional and overlap is what we're all about. So uh, you don't have to just be involved or connected in one thing, right? You can be involved in a commission and in a coalition and in a community of practice. And you can bring whatever your passion and your expertise is and or your learning desire is to all of those spaces. and do some development there. You can get involved because you're passionate and you really care about and you feel like it can be a contribution. You can also get involved because you want to learn. Like, I don't know anything about this area, but I'm interested in that area. And if I'm going to be in this role later on, it might be helpful for me to know something about working in community colleges, or it might be helpful for me to know something about working in student conduct and um, judicial affairs, if you will. And so how do I, that's the beauty of this Generalist Association, that you get to see not only the multifacetedness of student affairs in higher education, but you also get to be involved in all of those and the relationships that's important not only at the association level, but at the campus level, right? And that's why, I think that's the value add that ACPA brings.
Beautiful. I love all of that, and that speaks very much to my experience too, Jamie. So thank you for giving that word so beautifully. In the time we have left, Jamie, I know that you're going to probably laugh. This is a part that we had not talked about. I'm gonna the folks on the Facebook Live now, and Jamie will laugh that I've been working with the board on something called the Big 8 questions, and so I've got 8 big questions for you now, Jamie, just to help the Facebook world get to know you a little better. So you ready? This is kind of rapid fire.
Okay. Okay. Remember, I know where you live, Chris.
I know. Keeping it G or at least PG rated since we're broadcasting live. I'm not trying to have someone come knock at the office door here and take me away. So tell us a hobby of Jamie's.
So I was just saying this to a friend the other day. This whole notion of Netflix and Amazon on movie and Amazon on demand, I have become a binge watcher of television programs.
Okay.
And so I am actually a TV geek, right? And so I just enjoy binge. I can't watch a series just week to week. I have to have at least 5 episodes. So I love binge watching programs.
Okay. Can you tell us one thing you're watching now?
I am watching Luke Cage right now.
Okay.
On Netflix, and okay. I'm actually in my last 2 episodes of that. And so
nobody spoil it for Jamie.
I'm always watching Golden Girls and Murder She Wrote. Always.
Okay. Things I didn't even know. Good. Does Jamie Washington have any pets?
Jamie Washington does have a pet, Jack Russell Terror.
Not Terrier, but Terror.
Terror. His name is Taurus, and he is 18 years old.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Dog years are real years?
Real years. He's 18 years old, and so he's moving a little bit slower, but he's still controlling everything.
Okay. Tell us your favorite prior convention, ACPA convention.
Oh, wow. My favorite prior convention. I've had so many good ones, and it's all about the people and the story and the experience that we've had in the spaces. So my most recent favorite one that I really enjoy, I did enjoy Houston, but I loved Columbus. I had a good time in Columbus, and some of it was about just kind of where we were positioned and located, but so the people, the location, and of course the programs and all those things. But Columbus, I had a great time.
Good. I'm not going to hold it against you. You did say Montreal. That's a little personal to me.
Right. I knew that was coming, and I messed up too many shoes in Montreal because of having to walk across a couple of things. But it was still a good convention. It was.
I get it. Even though it was all covered, Jamie. You didn't have to walk outside. Anyway, no, I'm kidding.
But no one.
Tell us your happy place.
My happy place. Oh wow. So my happy place, honestly, is there are a couple of them, and so it's wherever pets are, dogs, particularly dogs. I love just kind of being with dogs. I love puppies. My happy place is at home with my partner, Sam, binge watching whatever we're watching and dinner. And my church is a very happy place for me, even in all of its challenges and drama. those are happy places. Just space to be. Um, yeah, those
Okay.
spaces.
All right, this would be a quick one. Your favorite food?
I said this to some friends the other day too. Chicken, that is the thing I could not live without. I used to think fried chicken was a side dish. So I thought you were supposed to have everything else with fried chicken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Shawshank Redemption.
That's
My
mine
favorite.
too.
Is
Really?
it?
I
I
didn't know
love
that. Love that movie.
Shawshank
Love it.
Redemption. I
How
don't
about
care
that?
when it's on, I have to watch it. Yes.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Good thing it comes on repeat a lot on like TBS and Turner Network and all that.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. Any kind of particular shade of blue?
I really like. So it depends. I like a range of blues.
Okay.
But I really like a navy. I like navy, but then I like the ocean blues and sky blue
Okay.
as well. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then final question of the big eight questions for Jamie. The person who has influenced you greatly.
Person who's influenced me greatly, and lots of great influences. But who would I say has influenced me? So there's been a lot of folks, but I'm going to name two in particular. One is Dr. Joan Lester, who is former executive director of Equity Institute, and Dr. Harold Cheatham, who's a past president. Both of them helped me to um, walk in my power without being arrogant. So Harold said something to me about when I was young and a little bit full of myself. He said, lower your shoulders, sit down, and listen, which is very powerful. Joan said to me, um, you cannot invite people to show up in their authentic self and then beat them up for doing it. And so both of those pieces helped me and has shaped the way in many ways that I show up as a leader today. Uh, Willing to listen, willing to know what it's like to be full of yourself, and so how to talk with folks, uh, and willing to hear the stuff that's not always easy for me to hear when I've invited people to tell me the truth. So,
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing.
mhm. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for those. That was so, no, we did not talk about that. And
we did.
it was so Chris Moody and so wonderful. So thank you for that.
Good, 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 good. I thought it'd be fun just for folks to get to
Yes,
not just the
yes,
president person and
yes,
past president Jamie Washington, but the person behind the brilliance. So we are going to thank everybody for joining us
yes,
today. We promise to keep it at about 45 or 50 minutes, and we'll honor that. Thanks for taking the time with us today and for engaging with us. We want to do this monthly. We want to do some version of this monthly,
yes,
whether it be with Jamie or other members of the leadership of the
yes,
association. Our next time, we're actually going to move to Twitter for Twitter chats to make it
yes,
possible for hopefully for more folks to be able to join us. And so Friday, September 14th, 3 o'clock Eastern time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific time. Join us for a Twitter chat. And just follow us here and on Twitter to make sure you see the announcements to help with the hashtags. But we're going to engage in a Twitter conversation with folks on Friday, September 14th, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Until then, please Jamie or myself know if how we can continue to serve you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jamie, for
thank
letting
you.
us interview you today. And we wish everyone a happy August. Wherever you are, whatever you're
Yes,
doing, take care of yourself, take care of each other,
yes,
and
yes.
be ready to welcome tons of students back to campuses and even more students to campus for their first experiences in college and university. So thank you all. Have a great day and a wonderful month ahead.
Thank you.
Bye bye.